itself being the biggest scam, breast cancer industry, biggest scam perpetrated on women in medical history until COVID maybe. But that's a different perspective, I guess. So I'm gonna do, let me see if I can do the slideshow version. Okay, so with thermography, the thermography is performed with an infrared camera. So you can stand in front of an infrared camera all day long and it wouldn't hurt you. It's actually reading what you radiate. So it's a high-tech thermometer. And we know that temperature in health has been measured throughout the history of mankind. Like it's your instinct, if you see a child that you think is not well, or anybody, you put your hand on their forehead or you'll touch them to see if they have a fever. And so depending on how hot they are or how high that fever is, it does not diagnose, just like thermography, it doesn't diagnose a disease, but it lets you know that there might be something serious or something mild going on that we can address. So it's no different. The human body is fairly symmetrical from side to side temperature-wise. So this side of your face should be similar to this side of your face and all the way down. So this technology has been FDA approved since 1982, but most of you haven't heard of it before, is because the medical industrial complex cannot patent it and make trillions of dollars like we do now. So, and they don't focus, as you all know, ladies, they don't focus on prevention. They don't, talk to you about how your breasts work, or that women have lumps and bumps all the time. They can come and go, what you can do about it, using essential oils, etc. So, for thermography, doing breast health imaging, it's very effective because the breasts actually hang outside of the body, so they're cooler. So I don't do full body imaging because, if someone has a problem with a part of their body, they're just curious, I'm happy to show them and not charge them, because I don't want to have you pay me to tell me your knee hurts, because you probably already know that, or you have arthritis, right? So if one hand is, you already know it, you have more arthritis in this hand than this hand, and thermography can help correlate that by showing you, yeah, it's warmer. But with, as we know with cancer in particular, or inflammatory processes that we're not aware of, that can go undetected in the breast, because cancers don't usually cause pain until it actually presents with some type of lump. So we want to catch it way before that happens. So it's a physiological test. It's not an anatomical test. So an anatomical test is looking for something that's already there that it can detect. And then a thermogram is letting you know there's an inflammatory process that's potentially going on, so you can actually do something about it. And so I'll just go through these slides and it'll start to make more sense. So this is my thermogram. So when I had my first thermogram, the human body is fairly symmetrical from side to side, with the breast in particular, from about 1.5 to 2 degrees. So if there is something that's above 1.5 to 2 degrees, it doesn't mean that something's wrong. It just means that we want to keep an eye on that. And so it's just a guideline that they use. So as you can see in this image right here, I have a little hot spot right on this side that I don't have on that side. So thermography is all about symmetry. We want the temperatures to be symmetrical, and we want the patterning to be symmetrical, and the images are reviewed year after year after year for any changes, instead of just waiting to be told you already have a cancer. So when I had my first thermogram, I was a tomboy, so maybe I'd hit in the breast when I was developing. So we all have lumps and bumps, we're not machines. Or maybe a woman used one breast more during breastfeeding than the other one. Or you got in a car accident, or you were, a horseback riding accident. There's 1,000 things that can make asymmetrical findings. So that's why it's important to just monitor year after year. So my thermogram hasn't changed since I was 33. That's when I first started. Now I'm 62. So as long as it doesn't change, and I don't live in fear, it's like I didn't get killed on the way home. I don't live in fear. If something presents itself, I will deal with it. And the main question I would ask myself is, what is my body trying to tell me? And what do I maybe need to change to make sure I get back on a healthier path? So we're all on a healing journey. So this is just noting that the FDA has approved thermography since 1982, and it's really unfortunate that most women don't know about it. So we're all glad you're here so we can share it with other people as well. So it's good for all different types of breasts. It doesn't matter if you have implants, the density of your breast, if you have surgery, injury, it doesn't matter. It's about monitoring physiological changes year after year. So this is a great example of how different we all are. So I can change the palette of a thermogram easily. So the palettes that I choose are educational. And so when you see these two type of palettes, the color palettes help the human eye visualize maybe the hotter areas with the cooler areas. And then the inverted grayscale helps the doctor see if there's any changes in the patterning. So these are 3 different patients. I'm in the middle, and then the one that's going to be on closer to me is a young lady, and so she's got more thermovascularity because she's still in childbirthing years, so more estrogen. And estrogen's not the demon. You need to make sure we have our proper balance of estrogens. We need to keep our estrogens healthy throughout our whole life. Don't ever let a doctor make you fearful of estrogen. It's the right estrogens. We need to avoid those xenoestrogens and help our receptors clear out anyone who's trying to cause mischief. So don't let them instill fear about your hormones. And so my image is in the middle, and then a woman in her 70s on bioidentical hormones is the last image. So year after year, the doctor is able to watch for the temperature changes. That's the quantitative data, and then also the qualitative data, which would be those patterns. So if a pattern starts to change, we can, even before a temperature change, the doctor can note that, because when cancer starts to set up shop in your body, it actually tricks your immune system into feeding it with its own dedicated blood supply to feed it, right? And so that causes heat. So if we could catch that, a decade before a mammogram would find it, it would be a much better opportunity for somebody to go up the path and go down a different path before cancer actually starts to take hold. And so I give this image to every single woman that I image. Because when I was growing up and when I went through puberty, no one ever told me what the inside of my breast looked like. So this is a great visual for women to be able to understand exactly what's inside the breast and the lymph system, which is super important. So I provide this image, and I also recommend that women, if you want to do self-exams, of course you should do that. I do not. I prefer to do self-breast massage. So lymphatic massage for myself. So you just put your, in the morning before the world invades and everybody needs your attention, you can just put your arm up and do some lymphatic massage. You can't really do it wrong, but there's different videos, and even this handout I give out gives some information about it. But you just want to keep things moving and help your lymph system, because you are the pump for your lymph system, and it's the trash collector. And these are basically kind of bags, just with gravity and everything, that can collect things. And a lot of women will get lymphatic congestion up in these areas, so we want to just really gently keep things moving. And when you're doing that lymphatic massage, you can also work on some of your breath work. You do some deep breathing, because this is the time you can spend for yourself, self-nurturing. And you can even work on some energy work or prayer or meditation. It's scientifically proven that we're more energetic than we are physical. So we can work on, I'm not trying to be flippant about this, because this is the hardest part of the journey, is working on the grief, the unresolved grief and resentment and anger, or just chronic stresses, and learning techniques to respond to those stresses, because we'll never manage them. So just taking that time and reflecting and giving ourselves self-forgiveness, like, oh, I shouldn't have said that to that person, or even like, I'm never letting that person talk to me that way again. And really starting to evaluate our life, like who is helping support our energy and our battery, and who keeps draining it. And of course, we're going to be there for friends, or in times that are unforeseen or sad times, or something happens. You want to be supportive, but you don't want someone to be chronically draining your battery. Because women tend to hold their emotions in their body, because we tend to just shove all our emotions in our backpack and keep forging ahead as we're taking care of everybody else. But if we don't take care of ourselves and put that oxygen mask on ourselves first, we won't be here for them. So just be very conscious and cautious about who we allow in our lives, and start evaluating, doing like our jobs. What's our purpose? Are we fulfilling, our purpose in life too, as we help support other people? So just really important, and doing that massage and really taking that time. You can use essential oils. You can use frankincense, lavender. You can use a handheld massager, like a light a light vibration, just get up in these areas and just get that lymph moving. So the heart the heart is the pump for the venous system. And so the lymph system, you are the pump. So any kind of resistance that you have to push off the kitchen counter, anytime you think about it, just work on that, because that's very helpful. A lot of women, they have lymphatic congestion and they have heat signatures in their thermogram. That'll clear up just from using that technique. And obviously diet, the tangible things are really important, but that hardest thing is that energy work and that self-forgiveness and working on that, which is, like I said, we're all on a healing journey and helping to support each other on that journey. So thermography is, as I said, is a physiological test. So the other imaging options we have are the MRI, which you see there's the blue image, and then we have the mammogram and we have the ultrasound. So mammograms are basically useless for women who have dense breasts, and most of us have dense breasts. So what you're told is you have dense breasts, and now you have to have a 3D mammogram. Well, that's a CAT scan, so that's more radiation. And then it's still too dense, so now we have to have an ultrasound. So why can't we just skip the mammogram, and if you feel a lump, an ultrasound? Now, I'm not a big fan of mining for disease with any technology. So you don't want them to mine for cancer or tumor or, any kind of cyst or anything, just to be mining for it. But if a woman feels a lump, and then maybe her thermogram, is concerning, or she just needs peace of mind, an ultrasound is a wonderful tool to let you know, is that lump a dense object, which is more concerning, or a fluid-filled cyst? So like you saw my little hot spot, well, a radiologist, she was curious and she asked if she could check it out with the ultrasound. And so of course I agreed, and she's like, oh yeah, it's just a fluid-filled cyst. So it's a great tool, like if you need that peace of mind or just more information. Now, if it was suspicious and they thought, well, it may be a cancer, we want to stick a needle in it for a biopsy, which is basically the only thing that can help diagnose cancer, except for certain really high-tech blood tests that we have now. But the risk of that, so just let me back up real quick. No technology, imaging technology, has ever diagnosed cancer. Not a thermogram, not a mammogram, not an MRI, CAT scan. It always has to be biopsies to confirm it's an actual cancer. So, here's the catch. When you stick a needle into a tumor, it spreads the cancer. Period, end of story, no doubt. You stick a needle in a balloon and it's going to pop. So now you spread those cancer cells. So even if you agree to do a biopsy, really take your time before you do it and make sure you are doing some detoxing and getting your immune system ready and getting, taking all the nutrients and getting the sleep and rest and feeling spiritually ready to do something like that. And then do some major detoxing after knowing the reality. If you want to have it confirmed that way. And then you can also do a blood test, and so say it comes back suspicious. And I understand we need to know what's going on, and we're creatures that do need to know. We want to know what's going on, and we want to know what's the best step. But I try to encourage everybody to just, if you suspect that you have cancer, then just start treating yourself like you do. Who are you around? What are you eating? Do you need to exercise more? Are you fulfilling your life purpose? Because we've been doing the cut, burn, and poison for about a century. And how's that working for us? They claim they don't have a cure, but they're really close to a cure, and here's another treatment, the newest, most fashionable, or whatever gets them the biggest kickback, I don't know. But it makes them a lot of money, but here we are hearing more and more people are getting cancer and more treatments. There's other ways to treat cancers or any illness. So the word disease means dis-ease. So starting with the emotional first. What's causing this dis-ease in my body, the imbalance? Obviously, the food you eat, the vaccines you've had, the environmental toxins we may have been exposed to, et cetera, but also the emotional factor, and really just being aware and getting really small. Get your life more simple, and get out in nature more, and figure out what's important to you. So if somebody's diagnosed with a cancer and they're a young person, they may want to have the tumor removed. And again, you do the same thing. You would make sure you take plenty of time. Your hair is not on fire. You are not contagious. You're not, there's no urgency. Like, really take some time, weeks, months, however long you need to figure out what you want to do. Because nobody's on that path. And nobody's with you the day after any surgery you've agreed with. No one. No surgeon, no oncologist. you have to live with those decisions. So really pumping the brakes and making sure you have all the facts and whatever you're comfortable with, because they don't have all the answers. So just being very, very cautious of that and conscious of that. So I'll just continue on my slides here. So with the MRI, so MRIs are great, but then they show everything, right? And then the other big, huge downfall about an MRI is they want you to do a contrast MRI, which includes the dye includes gadolinium. Well, gadolinium is one of the most toxic elements on our planet. So again, we have to be aware of that. And if you are going to agree to have that, you want to detox from that. And so, like I said, the other slide is the ultrasound. So as you can tell, I think ultrasounds are great as long as you don't let them mine for things, or you should never let them mine for anything. So this is the difference between a fatty breast and a dense breast. So most women have dense breasts. So the dense breast is the one that looks dense and white. And so what radiologists are tasked with doing is trying to find a white cancer, because cancers usually look white on an x-ray, in a dense fog. So it'd be like trying to find a white rabbit in a blizzard, right? And the radiologists don't come out and say, yeah, this is stupid. So a fatty breast, which is older women or women that have kind of lost their hormonal balance, can have fatty breasts. They're usually pretty flat. You can kind of see that they're flat and not as dense as they once were. And you can keep your breast dense, which is what you want to do with making sure your hormones are balanced throughout your whole life. So with most women actually find their tumor or lump between their mammograms. They'll go year after year after year, and then they'll reach down and they'll find a lump. And then the gynecologist or doctor will want you to go have what? A mammogram, to tell you what? There's a lump. And now they've crushed it and radiated it. So 9 out of 10 women will find their own cancer between their mammograms. So just be cautious of that too. So that's how effective they aren't, because that means it missed it the last time. So there's no doubt in my mind that the image that you can see clearly there's a tumor there in that fatty breast, that she could most likely feel that. And she should have just had an ultrasound. So there's also a tumor in the dense breast in the same location, but you can't see it. So a lot of women are told year after year that they're fine, and they're not. So again, ultrasounds are great. Is it a fluid-filled object or a dense object? So this is why I love doing thermography. So thermograms are a great window into your whole health. And human beings are very visual. So more women actually die of heart disease than they do breast cancer. So as I was saying, when your thermogram is not symmetrical, and I'll show you some images of that here in a minute, that's concerning. Like if one breast is hotter in one region or the whole thing than the other breast. But it's also very concerning when I image a woman like this. So you can all see that she looks really inflamed. And you can see it's taken in the same span. The palette is the same measurement on each side of the image. So the next image, after she worked on her healing journey for 6 months, because it took her a long time to get where she was here, where it's all red. And here she is after 6 months working with a holistic practitioner like Sarah or Amber or Leah and other doctors that we have in our community. So after that, you can see yourself. So people can actually see the benefit, the benefits of their actions, their positive actions they've done on their healing journey. So when I first started doing thermography, the reason I started doing thermography is because I worked in the entertainment industry for years and I moved up here, and I thought everyone was getting a thermogram. I didn't pay attention to the pink ribbon, none of that. So I'm thinking, it's FDA approved, I'm sure everyone knows about it. I get up here and I go to get my thermogram and I'm like, what's going on? So it was like an epiphany, because I'm a business consultant. But I'm like, I gotta get trained. It's like women have to know about this, and the progressive doctors in our area immediately invited me into their practices. Dr. Amber Runnerstrom was one of them, Dr. Marquez, even Dr. Forsman. There was other doctors that, like, here's the key on Saturday. Why wouldn't I want physiological information? And even when I worked with the radiologist, after I showed her some of the images I'm about to show you, she asked me to image out of her practice. And that was shocking that a radiologist would allow that. But she's like, why wouldn't I want physiological information before an anatomical test? So when you go to the doctor, what do? They take your temperature. They weigh you. They take your blood pressure. Those are physiological tests that are monitored over time, and thermography is no different. So when I first started doing thermography, as a technician, I got trained, I got certified, and I started seeing women, and I realized pretty quick, I'm like, you know what, no one is asking these women one simple question. What's going on with you? Did you just move? Divorce? Grief? You know, are you an alcoholic? I mean, I don't ask them that, but they'll know. Like, what's going on with you? What's leading to bad behavior that would make you so inflamed? And you know, all of those things are very stressful. Are you under chronic stress? You know, are you taking care of an elderly parent, a disabled child? Like, no one's asking them as human beings. All they want to do is like poke and prod and image you, and colonoscopy, super dangerous. Like, do some research on that. Again, what is the benefit versus the risk? And what are they looking for? Oh, that's right, a disease they don't have a cure for. So here's another young lady, super inflamed, right? So is she exposed to mold? Is she taking a prescription drug that's making her inflamed? We don't know. Thermography is like the temperature a child has. We're not sure, but let's try to get to the root of the problem. It could be emotions combined with all the tangible things that we know, right? And help people as human beings on healing journeys. Instead, like how we should all be treated, instead of how the medical industrial complex is usually like, we're not even sure, maybe it's autoimmune disease, maybe it's Hashimoto's. They want to label it, but they're not really getting to the root of what the cause is. So how can you successfully treat it? Well, here's your drug, which can lead to other factors, correct? So we just want to really work with practitioners that really want to get to know you, spend time with you, and help you on your unique healing journey, and educate you so that you can be your own doctor, right? That's the goal. So here this woman is, after working with a progressive, holistic practitioner. You know, it takes some time, but that's a great job. You know, you can tell that it looks symmetrical and a lot less systemically inflamed. So here's a young lady who is a yoga instructor, super clean diet, super educated about a healthy lifestyle, and she came in and she was really worried because she felt a lump in her breast where you can see where the red is. It's more yellow and red. So the temperature differences are like the cooler temperatures are the blues and the turquoises, and the black is the coldest. Like, that's usually the temperature of the room, and some nipples end up being black because they're cold, because it's a cold room and you're getting your image taken. And so when it's warmer, if it's red or white hot, it doesn't mean anything's wrong. It's all about symmetry. We all have red around our necks, our jugular veins, under our arms sometimes, most of the time. She for some reason doesn't have a lot of heat underneath her arms, but she does it the second time, right? So you get that symmetrical. So it's all about symmetry. So here she is coming in. She's worried because she feels a lump. It's being, the thermogram is correlating her feeling. Like, it doesn't say there's a lump there, but you can tell that there's some heat going on that's not going on in the other breast. But what's the real big question here? What's going on with you? Like, she's systemically inflamed. And I said, this is before COVID. I said, are you homeschooling? And she's like, how did you know? And I said, I'm a huge fan of homeschooling, but a lot of women need to try, because unless it's your calling, which is rare, you probably need some help. It's like your husband comes home, now you're taking care of him, you're taking care of your kids, homeschooling, you're trying to do your yoga. So again, it's about connecting with people and helping them on their journey, and just bringing some things to light, right? That I could actually see her taking mental inventory. And so here she is 4 months later, just beautiful. Right? No more lumps, no more systemic inflammation. And so that's the goal of thermography. We're not mining for disease. So I'll skip ahead a little bit. So this is what a woman looks like after a mammogram. So when I was working for the radiologist, she had her own practice, so she didn't have to obey any hospital or network rules. And so you can see, she was pretty horrified, because she can see easily that you see all the blood vessels that are burst, and how to me it's like a psychological, physical, sexual abuse of women. So it's like when you're young, it's like, you know what, celebrate your sexuality, you're beautiful, you can do anything that you want, the world is your oyster. But when you're about 40, these are landmines that might go off and kill you. right? Or you have a relative or a parent that had cancer, so now you're higher risk. No, you're not. The only risk you have of having breast cancer is that you have breasts. So the whole con with the genetics is about that much to do with that, because we can code around bad genes. So it's about being healthy and focused on purpose and not getting so wrapped up in all this fear. Nothing breaks my heart more than a woman coming into my office and saying to me, I can tell they're petrified about what they're afraid to see. And then they'll tell me like their mother, because they've seen what happened. And of course they're shell-shocked. And so they'll say to me, oh, it's not a matter of if, it's when I get cancer. And I'm like, what have we done? Like, what? Like, that's horrible. So I actually met the gentleman that wrote this book called Dirty Genes, and he helped map the genome. And he basically wrote this wonderful book explaining it in lay-friendly technical terms about genetics. But you know what I loved most about his book? At the very end, he said, you know what? My advice to you is don't get your genes tested and live a purposeful, healthy life and focus on that. So I love that. So anyway, here this woman is being brutalized, as you can see, which most women who had a mammogram probably feel that way. Yeah. And if you have a tumor, now they've crushed it. And so there is a protective membrane. And if you puncture it, you've spread the cancer. So here's a woman that I imaged in Santa Cruz. So like I said, with thermography, thermography can help detect that there might be a disease process happening. So you can see that the first image there, it's a high-risk thermogram, and you can see this localized heat signature up in her upper quadrant there. And then you see this really gnarly, like blood flow, right? So if a cancer is set up shop and it's getting fed by this dedicated blood flow, we want to help this woman on her healing journey. So what she said to me was this: I'm just going to treat myself like I've got cancer. And she just took charge of her life, and she cleaned up her emotional, got rid of toxic people. Maybe she changed her job. I don't know the details of it. She did some wonderful cleansing, emotional help, got her diet together, etc., etc. And here she is 5 months later, and she looks great. She got rid of seed oils, the processed foods, the sugars, and she was so proud of herself. She's like, yes. And so that's why I love doing thermography, because if you have cancer or you don't have cancer, the true cure is the same. It's about getting to the root and the emotions, and then managing your passenger, right? Like even if it never is completely resolved, then you could have enough time to, if you did want to have it surgically removed, boy, you really are in a different space. You're healthier, you're spiritually ready, you're psychologically ready. So this is the inverted grayscale of that same woman. So you can just see visually how those vessels have changed. So this is what cancer can look like on a thermogram. So anyone in this room can see that one of her breasts looks a lot different in that upper quadrant than the other. So thermography is not telling anyone she's got cancer. It could be an infection. She could have got an injury. But her doctor, the doctor felt a lump, she felt a lump, and thankfully her doctor was more intelligent and actually had her have a thermogram, because most doctors would want her to go have a mammogram. And so what do you think would happen if that plate crushed her breast right over that tumor? So now she has an opportunity. Which path would you like to take? Would you like to take cut, burn, and poison, integrated, all natural? There's no absolute cure. And I could have the same disease that anyone in this room, any breast cancer diagnosis, we could have the same exact diagnosis, same cancer, and we could both choose cut, burn, and poison. Or we do integrative. Or we'll do all natural. And our outcome will be completely different, because I'm not you. I don't have your baggage, I don't have your diet, I don't have your family history. Meaning, family history is more like how do your parents behave, how you handle stress. And then the genetics is a factor, but you can code around those bad genes. So does that make sense? It's like there is no cure, and so whenever they say, oh, they tried that natural path and it didn't work, it's like, well, how's that other path going? And how's that working for us? So here's another woman, local, I'm almost done. Here's another local lady who was told year after year she's fine. Negative mammogram, negative mammogram, negative mammogram. So her intelligent doctor here in town sent her for a thermogram. So you can see that one of her breasts is on fire. So that means her breast was radiated and crushed year after year after year, and it's stage 4 cancer. Do you think it caused the cancer? She's totally convinced it's for sure spread it, right? So starting with non